What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and I don't know if you are like me, but I am just exhausted. I'm exhausted from just the excitement from last night's games. From minute one to the very last second, it was exciting, fast-paced play, and man, if you haven't watched it, you need to just stop this video right now. You need to go over to Twitch. I know you want to see the rest of the content, but I'm telling you, go ahead, watch the matches first, then come on back, and we can go ahead and we can discuss this thing and break this thing on down. Now, if it's your first time here, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. And you know how at the end of each video I give you a thumbs up? Well, I wouldn't mind one back. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And you know all that stuff helps the channel. And listen, if there's anything that comes up that you want to talk about, that you want to bring up, let me know down in the comments section. You know that I love to interact with everybody down there and continue the conversation on down there in the comments section. Now, without further ado, let's get into this and let's talk about what just happened last night. So what am I talking about? I am talking about the NEPA Pro Series. That's right. We're back into Echo Arena, and man, were the games exciting last night. And it all started off with the Knights and the Raptors. And remember, last night, this was really for getting back in the kind of the hunt, as you would say, for both of these teams. Both of these teams were 1-2 going into last night's matchup. And things started out really just kind of a little slow. Both teams were going back and forth, just kind of taking advantages here and there, clearing, things out, and really just gingerly finding their way through the first quarter. And to no surprise, Zach W. kind of was starting to stand out in the first quarter. And really, though, by the second quarter, the action picked up in this game, and we saw some crazy stuff happening in there. We had Mozzie had this steal and then three-pointer right off the bat. It was nothing less than skill. I mean, you just the way that happened and the way that he took that. When I watch this game, it looks to me like a puck, and I know you call it a disc, and I know that the official name is a joust, but I just call it puck. It just seems to flow that way for me. I don't know, when I watch it, it just reminds me of hockey, the way that things go and the way that it does around the arena. So if I say puck, I apologize, but he threw it in for a three-pointer. It was just a thing of beauty to watch and to see. And so with that, we had really kind of at this point, it was really anybody's game, but this was kind of one of those where the Knights, they kind of had some advantages and were kind of doing some things. The Law and Mozzie were really taking things over, kind of like I kind of thought that they would. And at this point, they had, I think at this point the Law had like 3 steals, and so going into half, we were sitting there, which is kind of crazy because Zach W's got 16 points and really pulling his team along with him into the halftime. However, after halftime, things really changed and they really adjusted into the Raptors' favor. Now, one of the things that I'm going to say, and you might hear me, and this is an old sportage adage, those teams that are really good make second half adjustments, and that's, I think, really what was the key to the really the whole game, the whole match here, was that the Raptors adjusted and they found a way. And without further ado, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Zach W. scored all of his points in 3 quarters, 20 points in 3 quarters, which is insane. If you look at the stat line, he had 8 saves. So not only is he doing it on the offensive side, doing it on the defensive side. So if you've got 8 saves, each save is really the equivalent of 2 points. So right there, you've got 16 points. That's a 16-point swing. So really, he's accounting for somewhere around almost 40 points just by himself. And he was insane. But the fourth quarter, he never scored another point. And this is what I say, good teams find ways to win, and they make adjustments, and that's what the Raptors did. The Raptors grabbed the lead, and they never really looked back, and they held off a really nice fight from the Dallas Knights. Now, the thing for the Dallas Knights was, and I can't see anybody's faces, and I don't know this. This is just me putting this out there. And again, this is no offense to anyone. This is just me presenting the information that I'm seeing. Every one of you, if you are watching the video, and those of you who aren't, listen, I think that everybody in this community has been amazing. So this is no dig on anyone. But watching the Dallas Knights fall apart in the fourth quarter was tough to see. Really, things got rushed. They rushed into things. They were very inaccurate. They had an opportunity to really take this game. They made a run there at the end, and my hat goes off to when I'm looking at the Raptors, Palador, Palace, Witt. They really stepped up to fill the void with Zach W. not scoring and getting double teamed in that fourth quarter. Dallas really took the time to really go through and really single out, and they made a run, but they held that run off. And two, one of the things that I thought was really neat, and hopefully teams understand this and see this as they go about, they slowed the pace down. Dallas wanted to force things, wanted to run, and they made Dallas make errors and, take some inaccurate shots, and that cost them in the end. And in the end, it ended up being a 38-33 victory with, the Denver Raptors getting a just kind of a quick, easy goal there at the end to put it away, to get them that 5 points, make it a 2-point possession, and that they couldn't touch them. And so things were moving on with that. But we started right out of the gate with a really hot game and kept on going from there. The second game that we had on the night, and this was the one I told you not to fall asleep on. Now listen, these first two games, I get it. I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong about that they were going to be good, hard-fought games. Now, let's move on to the Wizards and the Burners. The Wizards and the Burners, this game was what it was. This thing came down to the last final possessions. It came down to it was it. We had our very first, not our very first overtime, but this week we had overtime. It was amazing. It was awesome. It was everything that you would want to have in a game. It was 43-41. It was sudden death, just sweetness at the end. And really, this game was a game of halves. And first half, all we have to say is Steel Skydiver took over the first half. 18 points and 6 saves. And really, Chrome really organized things in the first half for them. Now, like I said before, good teams make adjustments and good teams come back. You will find that, and I just love that in sports. You get to see the chess match that's happening. That, one team's doing one thing, then the team adjusts to that, and then the other team readjusts, and that's kind of what we had here in this second game. The third quarter, though, this was like these two halves were almost like two different games. The first half was won and taken over, and it was fast paced. The Burners were going, they were playing their game, they were pushing things, and they were doing that, and the Wizards turned that around the second half, and the Wizards really took control. And Swag finally got his swag on, and it was really cool to see, Swagward finally took things over, and I don't know why so the Burners switched things up in the second half, and I don't know if they were, trying to play some prevent defense, but we know what happens with prevent defense. Prevent defense only prevents wins, and what happens with that, I get it. Steel is a 6 saves. It's just insane in just a half. The second half, though, Steele really needed to push it. Their team needed Steele. They needed him. They needed him to step up to the plate and, really take that offense back to it. And unfortunately, by the time they needed him to really do that, things had already gotten out of hand, and the momentum is huge in games. Momentum had already switched over in the third quarter to the Wizards, and it never looked back. And listen, the overtime, the way that it ended, the way that it was, I get it. Nobody wants to win like that. It was a lag thing, and they tried to explain it in the stream, and we know that happens, and Swag, don't feel bad for that. That it just is what it is. It's a part of the game for right now. Hopefully, maybe that's something that the developers can work on. That maybe we can figure something out with some of these lags and some of that stuff with it. But all in all, my hat goes off to both of these teams. They gave us at the end, literally, it was back and forth. I mean, you're sitting there and you're just. Oh, it was just awesome. It was exciting. You could feel the energy. Literally, I think that Sir Dimwee really, man, he does a fantastic job. Great color commentator, and I think the game wore him out. That's how fast-paced it was. And man, your name is difficult to say, and I apologize. I botch it every time, and it's just going to be that way. Dimwee. Hopefully, if I keep saying it enough times, maybe one of these times I'll get it out right. But, I mean, it truly was. This was what, if I had to right now, of all the matches that I watch, and I get it, it's not that many, this would be the one that I would put in front of people. If you want people to, if you got friends, you got family, you want them to get a glimpse of what Echo Arena is and give them a good taste of it, a good fun time of entertaining sports, this is the game you need to show them. It was great. It was everything that we wanted. And the crazy thing is we weren't done yet. We had the slugfest after that, and the slugfest, it was that. You had two big heavyweight teams, both teams that, this was not one of those where one team was picking off on the weaknesses of the others, as we saw in the other games. And I will say, going back to that second game, the second game was a little weird too. I didn't realize this until game time that we actually had, so Chrome came in late, and hat off to the Wizards. The Wizards were missing, I think, 2 starters, I think they said at one point. So you've got both teams missing a player to start the game, and for them to play like they did, especially the Wizards with subs like that is fantastic, and that with it. So, but going back to our heavyweight fight for the last game of the night, it was a 38-33 win for the Freeze. This was the only game that I got right on the night. If you're keeping score at home, I'm 1 for 2 on the week. But listen, I got 3 more games that we're going to talk about in another video. And as I get into this game, really, this game really came down to those threes that the Freeze were bombing. They were just sending threes like nobody's business. They were finding creases and they were hitting long threes, and that really made the big difference. They started off in the first quarter, and that just really propelled them through to the end of the game. Fire Ninja, just craziness. We had Cruisin had 7 saves in the whole game. That again, it was the Freeze knowing what they are and doing what they do, and it was KC knowing what they are and doing what they do. They were bringing the puck up. They were up the floor. They were doing it well. There's no floor. I get it. We're in zero gravity, but bringing it up, setting up their plays, and running things like they were, and it just as KC would. Was getting ready and getting momentum, the Freeze would just come back and just hit a monstrous 3 and go through and do that. And really, KC, they were down about 6 points, and then in that fourth quarter came back. In the third quarter, got back within 6, and then fourth quarter, that's when they got them back within 2, and the Freeze had the one at the end to seal the deal. They're very, very late on to end the game. But man, it was punch after punch after punch after punch. Now, like I said, I mentioned this already before. KFC and Oscillator had 14 points. Fire Ninja went off with 20. Endor had 15. And I said, again, a lot of those for Endor and for Fire Ninja were threes. All of Endor's points might have been threes. I don't know that for a fact, but 15 points, five times 3, I think that gives you 15, right? I mean, if we're doing math here, but the threes and the thing for me that was just really stood out was just that the Freeze, their speed, but not just speed and overshooting things. They were very controlled about their speed, very deliberate, and it seemed like they were everywhere, and they were just a step ahead to where, like I said, they were finding the creases and hitting those threes. They were very accurate, whereas the Knights in the first game were inaccurate with their shots. If they would have hit their shots, they would have won big. Whereas the Freeze, their accuracy is really what kept them in the game and ended up getting them the win on the night. So it was huge. Hat off to Cruisin'. 7 saves. Again, like I said, that equates to like 14 points in a swing with things. So going through and looking at these two teams at the end of the season, we're going to look back and this matchup is going to be, hey, one that we look at that these were two of the best teams playing. How did they do against each other, and how have they progressed from here? And we're still early on in the season. I mean, we're only in we're only in week 4. This is only the 4th game. You can tell teams are progressing. The crazy thing and the scary thing is each week the Freeze are getting better. And I talked about KC, Kansas City, that hangover from a loss. Sometimes that happens, and you hate to see it, but that's the case here. I really feel like it was that gets in your psyche, and you in this game. I wish I could see faces. I wish I could see just that that ice water in the veins of those who are clutch, and you could see the nerves on some of the other people with that. You don't have that here, but you could definitely tell. You could see both teams were very composed, and both teams really playing well. This wasn't a game that was necessarily lost by a team, and it was a game that was won by the Freeze. It wasn't a game that was lost by Kansas City. Kansas City shouldn't hang their head, but they've had two straight losses in 2 weeks, two just sad, disheartening losses that can, like I said, it can add up and really take a team that's really super good, and all of the sudden you've got a team that could easily be 4-0 that's now 2-2 and sitting somewhere crazy. So without further ado, I know that I'm getting long in the tooth, but there was a lot of action, a lot of stuff to discuss here. Let's wrap things up by seeing where this is putting all of the teams now in this, because I think this is a really interesting thing and really interesting development that's happened here. So now what you have is you've got Kansas City, who is sitting on top. Now they're 2-2. You have the Denver Raptors, who now have put themselves in a place to where they can move up quite possibly into 3rd place, or even higher by in the division by the end of the week. So go from one of the bottom tier teams all the way to the top with just that win that they pulled off against the Knights. And then you have Kansas City, like I said, who was at the top, now who's looking, and looking really good now with the 500 record, to go from undefeated to 500. Now you're really falling down in the pack, and you're getting back in the pack of things to where they're really going to have to work hard to get themselves back up to where they were before. And that is kind of disheartening. And right now, looking at it, the East is really sitting with the powerhouses, with the Cyclones now and the Freeze. And it'll be really interesting to see how the Knights, the Kings are going to, on their Saturday game, how they're going to fare with that and where that's going to, sit them and where they're, going to. This thing is wide open. This thing is, is still anybody's games. Now, the Cyclones are still sitting undefeated, and I would expect them to be undefeated after Saturday. But the Freeze have put themselves in a really, really good position, and so have the Wizards with their win and getting back to 500. So all in all, you couldn't ask for a better night of entertainment. You couldn't ask for a better night of sports. These really were 6 teams, at playing at really, really high levels and really giving us fans really something to just watch, cheer, get excited about, and I'm looking forward to more of it on Saturday. So that was long-winded, but those are my thoughts. The question, as always, are what are your thoughts? I'd love to know what you think, what your reactions were, what your review is on all of these games from Wednesday night. So leave me the comments down in the comment section. I love to continue the conversation on down there. All right, guys, listen, I know that you're busy. I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.